A man held a camera to record the moment his wife gave birth, but he witnessed a horrifying scene. The newborn baby frightened the male nurse who delivered the baby. The female nurse next to him saw this and quickly carried the baby into the emergency room. Only the mother remained with a confused expression. After 27 surgeries, the baby finally survived. Now Augie is 10 years old, and his appearance is no different from a normal child. But under the helmet, his face with ugly defects often makes him feel self-conscious. But his current appearance is also the best result. Schizolin syndrome, a congenital genetic disease, will follow him for the rest of his life. Although Augie is only 10 years old, he already knows that he will never be normal. Because a normal child will not scare others and will not be surrounded by people when he appears. However, Augie is very lucky to have a family who loves him. His mother gave up her job to set up a homeschool and teach him herself. But as Augie grew older, his mother worried that he would become isolated from society and unable to communicate with people in the future. So when Augie was 10 years old, she decided to send him to school. This decision was strongly opposed by Augie's father. He said that Augie was not ready for school, but Augie's mother could not homeschool him all his life. If they delayed it for another year, it would be even harder to start. Other children were going to secondary school at this age. Augie was not the only new student, but his father argued that he was the only new student who looked like that. Augie's father told Augie's mother to focus on talking. He was afraid that if they sent Augie to school, Augie might be bullied by others. He knew she knew it too. Augie's father's worries were not without reason, but his mother was no longer able to teach him. Augie heard the news and he felt extremely scared. Before the official start of school, Augie's mother took him to visit the school. The principal was a funny old man. He arranged for 3 students to take Augie to get acquainted with the campus. They were Charlotte, Julian, and Jack. Augie felt awkward. For Augie, meeting children was more difficult than meeting adults, because everyone had the same expression when they saw Augie. But children could not hide their hatred. Their fear was clearly shown on their faces. On the way, Charlotte kept talking about his experience as a child actor. Julian was arrogant and haughty. The children went to the science classroom. Julian blocked the door and arrogantly said that Augie could not learn this subject, so they did not need to visit. Luckily, another boy came to Augie's rescue. He asked why Julian didn't move out of the way so Augie could see for himself. Julian agreed to move out. When they got to class, Julian made fun of Augie again, saying that he definitely didn't know what to use to erase the board. Julian even tried to bring up Augie's emotional wounds. Julian asked what was wrong with Augie. Had Augie been in a car accident or something? The other 2 boys kept reminding Julian of these rude questions. The other students were offended and wanted to stop Julian, but Julian ignored their warnings and became even more defiant. Augie, who had been quiet all along, finally spoke up. He said he wasn't on fire and that he had just heard something Julian said. Augie asked what Julian said because he didn't understand. Maybe Augie's pronunciation wasn't right, so Augie suggested that his mother could teach him. Everyone says children are innocent, but sometimes the seemingly careless actions are the most hurtful. During dinner, Mom asked Augie about school. The principal emphasized that the 3 children were very good, especially the rich boy Julian, but Augie didn't think so, because in front of adults and children, Julian was 2 completely different people. Augie's mother, Isabel, taught Augie that Julian might not understand things, so Augie should be a little more tolerant. While Mom was preparing dinner, his dad whispered to him. His dad said Julian was hateful. If anyone dared to hurt Augie, he should fight back without fear. Augie asked why they had to speak so softly. Augie's dad replied because he was afraid his wife would hear. Augie's mom wanted him to be tolerant, but his dad didn't. His dad didn't want him to be treated like that. Augie's mom respected his choice. If Augie really didn't want to go to school, he could not go, but Augie said he was willing to go to school because there was science there that he loved. Besides, Augie needed a more professional science teacher. The whole family happily agreed. They would help Augie teach Julian so that he wouldn't be treated like that anymore. The whole family was happy that Augie was willing to step out of his comfort zone. On the first day of school, the whole family took Augie to the school gate. Augie's father, Nate, took off his helmet and told him that he could only raise his hand once for each class, no matter how many answers he knew. Except for science class, of course. He could answer freely in that class. He agreed. Secondly, he would feel very lonely, but he had to remember that his family was always there for him. He happily obeyed. Then Nate carefully took off Augie's helmet and encouraged him to be brave and go in. Looking at Augie's small figure, his parents' eyes were filled with worry. They hoped that the other kids would treat Augie well. Augie walked into school. The strange looks around made Augie afraid to look up, but Augie remembered his mother's words that if he didn't like where he was, he should imagine a place he wanted to go. And so Augie imagined he was an astronaut. The strange looks at first turned into cheers. Augie went to class and found an empty seat to sit. Augie handed over the girl he met yesterday. In class, the teacher asked the students to tell 2 things about about themselves so that everyone could understand each other better. Then the teacher looked at Augie. At first, Augie shook his head, but under the teacher's encouraging eyes, he stood up and introduced himself. Augie talked about himself and his family and his favorite movie, Star Wars. Now Julian asked Augie why he had braided hair. Was Augie imitating the Jedi apprentice? A student asked what a Jedi was. Julian explained that in Star Wars, if you braid your hair like that, you are a Jedi Knight's apprentice. Then Julian deliberately mentioned an ugly character in the movie to refer to Augie's face. The teacher immediately stopped the conversation and asked who wanted to read the motto of the month. The students all raised their hands to express themselves. Only the girl sitting in the corner did not move. The teacher asked her name. The teacher asked Summer if she wanted to try. Summer replied that if she had to choose between doing the right thing and being a good person, she would choose kindness. At lunch, no one wanted to sit next to Augie. Julian came up and said that Augie's way of eating was just like a monster in Star Wars. When faced with the cruel ridicule of his friends, Augie always remained silent. Dad was right, he would feel lonely. In chemistry class, the teacher asked a difficult question that no one could answer. Only Augie gave the correct answer, and he received praise from the teacher. But then the other students didn't want to be near him. They even threw balls at him. Even after school, Julian didn't let Augie go. Julian made fun of Augie's deep braids for being out of date. Then Julian teased him again and promised to see him tomorrow. Augie had had enough all day. He ignored his mother, who came to pick him up and put on his flight helmet. The first thing Augie did when he got home was cut off his braids. Augie's sister Olivia asked who made fun of his braids. Augie locked himself away again, and the whole family could see that he was unhappy. His father carefully found something to stir up the atmosphere, while his mother took the initiative to ask about school. Augie just gave a normal answer, but it was obvious that the word was too one-sided. They still wanted to know the details, but when Mom continued to ask, he left the table in a huff. Mom came to his room and gently removed his helmet. Augie's self-esteem was shattered under the helmet. He cried and apologized to Mom. Mom comforted him and said it was okay. He sadly asked why he was so ugly, but Mom said he wasn't ugly. He said it was because she was his mom. Mom explained that because she was his mom, her words carried weight because she knew him best. He wasn't ugly, and people who really wanted to get to know him would understand that. He said that no one wanted to talk to him because he looked different. He pretended it wasn't true, but it was true. He asked Mom how coming out would affect him for the rest of his life. Mom replied that she didn't understand. His mom had a mark on her face from liking everyone. She had wrinkles from the surgery. She said this map would guide them, and this map recorded where they had gone, and it wasn't ugly at all. Augie innocently asked what about Mom's gray hair. She helplessly replied that it was probably his dad who made her angry. Augie finally laughed. Nate, who was standing outside the door, also walked in. Augie took the initiative to talk about the topic at the dinner table, and the small room was filled with laughter again. Olivia saw that Augie had returned to normal, so she smiled and closed the door. If Augie was the sun, then his dad, mom, and sister were the planets that revolved around the sun. Olivia loved her brother so much that she accepted this rule. On the first day of school, Olivia told Augie that if they wanted to look, then let them look. Augie couldn't fit in because he was born different. Olivia loved Augie very much because when she was 4 years old, she wished for a little brother. Then that dream came true. It was just that after her little brother was born, her parents devoted all their attention to him. Olivia also sympathized with her parents. Olivia became obedient and understanding. Her parents often praised her as the most attentive daughter in the world, but only Olivia knew that was not true. She also longed for her mother to tutor her in her studies and wanted her father to remind her to review her lessons, but she did not want to bother her family. Olivia knew that her family loved her, but besides her deceased grandmother, Olivia only had a close friend named Miranda, the only person who understood her. But that day, Miranda suddenly became cold and did not even bother to greet Olivia. Miranda asked Olivia if she liked her new hair. Olivia responded quite wildly. Miranda just replied that she wanted to try something new and she would contact her later. Olivia didn't know what she did wrong. She just felt like the world no longer belonged to her. She went to a dark corner alone and felt sad. Just then, Justine appeared and asked Olivia if she wanted to join the drama club. Olivia initially refused, but Justine's humor and concern made her change her mind. Justine asked Olivia if she was an only child. Olivia didn't hesitate to hide her younger brother. Olivia lied because at that moment she just wanted to be seen as not Augie's older sister. That night, her father came to her room to say goodnight. Olivia was a little disappointed when she found out that her mother was sleeping with her younger brother. In fact, her mother had always wanted to be an artist. Isabel was only one thesis away from getting her master's degree, but because Isabel had Augie, she had to give up that dream. Isabel still painted, but perhaps she herself didn't know that every step of her painting was related to Augie. Olivia also hoped that Isabel could care about her, even just once. The next day, Olivia went to the drama club. Unexpectedly, Miranda Miranda was there too. Miranda was surprised that Olivia was there too. They both wanted to try something new, so they joined this club. Olivia also felt that she should change. In the surprise test of science class, Augie finished the test very quickly. Jack, who usually got bad grades, had a hard time. Although cheating was not encouraged, Augie still helped Jack finish the test. At lunch, Jack took the initiative to thank Augie. Jack said that he had intentionally filled in a few wrong answers so that the teacher wouldn't find out and at most he would be expelled. Augie generously said that if Jack wanted, he could come to Augie's house to study after school every day. Jack happily agreed and wanted to have lunch with Augie. Augie refused because he didn't want to eat in front of others. Jack felt confused. Augie said that if he said it out loud, it would be too long. But when Augie ate, he looked like a turtle. Jack said he did too. Then the two friends happily talked about that wild way of eating. The two became close friends. Isabel saw Augie laughing and talking happily, and she didn't know what to do for a moment. When she knew that her son wanted to invite his friend home, she was so moved that she cried. From that day on, Jack became Augie's best friend. Jack asked Augie if he had thought about plastic surgery, and Augie immediately replied why he had to have surgery. Then Augie joked that he had had many surgeries to be this handsome. In the following days, the two of them ate, drank, joked, and played games together. Augie's school life began to have meaning. That day, Justine found Olivia and asked why she didn't run for the female lead in the play but was in charge of lighting. That way, Olivia's family couldn't cheer her on. But Olivia understood that even if she played the main role, her family would not have time to cheer her up except for her grandmother. Whenever Olivia missed her grandmother, she would go to Coney Island to sit for a while. Grandma comforted her and said she loved Olivia. She said Olivia was her treasure. Olivia asked, "What about Augie?" Grandma replied that of course she loved him too, but he already had many angels who cared about him. She warmly said that Olivia had her. Olivia was her whole world. Grandma loved Olivia the most, and so did she. When Olivia got home, it was already dark. Mom asked her why she was late. When Isabel found out that Olivia went to Coney Island, she suddenly realized that she had been a bit careless. Isabel promised Olivia that the two of them would stay home tomorrow to celebrate Halloween together. Olivia was very happy when she heard. The two happily prepared food for the whole family together. Halloween is the happiest day of the year for Augie because he can wear a mask and walk around freely without anyone recognizing him. People who used to avoid Augie now shake his hand and high-five him. Augie walks into class with his head held high, but he hears mean comments. Julian's costume is the ugliest character in the Star Wars movies. Julian says it looks exactly like Augie. Jack joins Julian and says if he had that face he would have killed himself. Julian asks why Jack is hanging out with Augie. Jack replies that Mr. Tushman told him to be nice to Augie. Now Jack is going to be Augie's tail. That makes Jack very upset. At this moment, Augie's heart, which has just been put back together, breaks again. Olivia is having a rare time with her mother, but her mother notices the abnormality between her and Marana. Olivia tells him everything. Isabel said that she had experienced the same thing and that the solution was to eat the whole box of candy. Suddenly, a phone call broke the atmosphere. The school called and said that Augie was sick. Isabel had no choice but to leave Olivia behind and rush to school. Although it was not the first time, Olivia still felt disappointed. Augie angrily went home and went into his room to look for his astronaut helmet, but no one knew where it was. So Augie locked himself in his room and didn't even want to go out to ask for candy. Seeing Augie's door closed, Olivia felt relieved. Maybe her brother needed his parents more. Olivia was too old to play dress-up, but she still wore a princess dress to her brother's room. She asked what happened that he couldn't tell his mother. He angrily said that it had nothing to do with her. She replied that because her mother couldn't be with her, it had something to do with her. Augie was silent, then he choked up and told the truth. His betrayal made Augie hate going to school. Olivia heard Augie's story and came to him and asked if he had noticed that Miranda hadn't been to their house recently. She told her brother that her friend had gone camping for the summer. Now that friend didn't want to play with her anymore. She explained to him that school was like that. People change. If he wanted to be a normal kid, this was the rule. Then she invited them to go trick-or-treating and now they were best friends. That night, the two had a warm Halloween night. After that night, Olivia gradually understood. She auditioned for Our Little Town. Isabel had more free time and started writing her graduation thesis. Jack said hello to Augie, but Augie didn't want to pay attention to him. Jack felt a little strange, but he didn't know that his words had been heard by Augie. Actually, those words weren't what Jack meant. Jack's kindness towards Augie was initially because his mother told him to. Jack just wanted to help Augie. Jack's mother said that she met Augie at the ice cream shop, and it was a shame that such a nice boy was being bullied at school. After a while of being together, Jack realized that Augie was smart, funny, and a good friend. Jack saw beyond Augie's appearance. Jack was sure that if he had to choose a friend to play with, he would choose Augie without hesitation. But in front of Julian, a strange mentality made Jack lie. Those words were like a needle stuck deep into Augie's heart, and he started to distance himself from Jack. Augie ignored Jack and didn't want to sit with him. The girls' table started talking about Augie, that he must have given Jack the plague. Summer heard those words and didn't want to join in. Summer brought a tray of food and sat across from Augie and took the initiative to make friends with him. But after being hurt once, Augie clearly no longer trusted her. It was not until Summer promised that Augie reluctantly believed her. He did not understand why she wanted to be friends with him. She said that she wanted to make friends with good people. The two children found common ground and started talking to each other. They shook hands and officially became friends. At the same time, in the drama club, Miranda got the female lead role in Our Little Town Wife. Olivia became a stunt woman, but she was not too disappointed. After all, Olivia was used to being a silent supporting character. Justin did not think so and told Olivia to continue learning her lines, even if she was not chosen. They discussed the kissing scene between George and Emily. Justin said he wanted to kiss Olivia right now, but did not know what she thought. The atmosphere began to become romantic. Olivia confessed to Justin that she was not an only child. Olivia then took Justin home and introduced him to her family and younger brother. Isabel took Augie out to buy things to give them some space. But before they left, Augie did not forget to tease Olivia. Just like that, Olivia and Justin were together, and their feelings grew closer and closer. Miranda saw all of this. When Miranda got home, she called Augie. There was a time when the relationship between the three of them was like siblings. Miranda did not know why she became like this, and she missed Augie very much. Miranda asked Augie to tell Olivia that Miranda missed her very much too. Augie asked why Miranda did not say it herself. Then Miranda quickly hung up the phone, and she did not forget to tell him that he could call her anytime. Miranda quickly hung up the phone. Memories of the past came flooding back. Every year at Christmas, Miranda celebrated Christmas with Augie's family. It was the happiest time of her life. This place is like Miranda's second home. Augie's astronaut helmet was also given to her by Miranda, but not long ago, Miranda's parents divorced. After Miranda's father remarried, her mother was drunk all day. Miranda's life was covered with sadness. To escape, Miranda went to summer camp. At the summer camp, everyone talked about their families, but for Miranda, a broken family made it difficult for her to speak. But somehow, Miranda told everyone about Olivia's loving family, a loving mother and father, a naughty dog, and a lovely younger brother, although his face was a bit deformed. A happy family that was unexpectedly loved by everyone. She became the most popular girl at the summer camp. But when Miranda returned to reality, she did not dare to face Olivia. Miranda felt guilty because she thought she had stolen Olivia's identity, so the two gradually grew apart. And when Christmas came, Miranda went near Olivia's house. Through the window, Miranda saw the scene of their loving family. Miranda smiled happily as if she were there. Justine's presence filled the emptiness in Olivia's heart. The new year had begun, and things were going to get better. Augie and Summer made a date to go skiing. They met Jack, but Augie still refused to forgive him. Augie tried to avoid Jack again. Summer said Augie couldn't avoid Jack forever, but Augie still didn't want to face him. That day, Jack found a sled. Jack happily brought it home. But when Jack went to school, he found out that it was a discarded item from his classmate. Maybe some homeless person wanted to use it for skiing. Only then did Jack realize that he didn't belong to them. After school, Jack went to Summer to ask why Augie wasn't paying attention to him. Summer could only suggest to Jack the phrase ghost face. At first, Jack didn't understand what it meant, but in science class, Jack suddenly remembered that on Halloween, the person wearing a ghost face standing in front of the classroom was Augie. Jack finally understood how wrong he was. At that time, the school held a science fair. The teacher asked the students to sit at the same desk and work in groups. Julian suggested working in groups of 3 with Jack. Jack immediately refused because he would work with his deskmate Augie. Then Julian asked Jack why he did that. Why didn't Jack change groups? Did Jack really want to work with that monster? When Jack heard those words, he turned around without hesitation and punched Julian. This time, Jack took the initiative to protect his friendship. After that, Jack wrote a letter of apology to the principal. Jack didn't explain why he did it because doing so would get Julian in trouble. The principal understood why Jack fought, but fighting at school is not allowed. So Jack was suspended for 2 days, but his scholarship was kept. Augie witnessed all of this. Olivia never told her parents that she was in the drama club. The whole family had an argument because Olivia didn't tell them. Olivia blamed her mother for never caring about her. But why did her mother suddenly care about her life now? Augie went to school, and Isabel was sulking, or her essay wasn't going well. Isabel asked Nate to go out so they could talk for a while. Olivia's resentment wasn't a sudden thing, but had been building up for years. Suddenly, their argument was interrupted by a sick dog. Isabel rushed the dog to the hospital, while Augie and Olivia waited at home. Olivia comforted and hugged Augie. Their parents returned, but could not bring Daisy back. Daisy's departure left the whole family in grief. Augie sadly said, said that Daisy was a true friend, and true friends are hard to find. Suddenly, Augie let go. Augie took the initiative to go to Jack in the game and praised his work. Jack sincerely apologized to Augie. Augie asked Jack again if he had a face like Augie, would he really seek death? Jack bowed his head and thought for a while, then said no. But if he became the kind of person Julian was, he probably would. The two looked at each other and smiled. Jack and Augie made up. They promised to win against Julian in the science fair. The day Olivia performed officially, her whole family arrived. Backstage, Miranda saw that Olivia's family had arrived. Miranda understood that Olivia needed this opportunity, so when she was about to go on stage, Miranda made an excuse that she was not feeling well and gave the stage to Olivia. At first, Isabel did not wear glasses, so she did not recognize Olivia. Isabel wondered why Miranda had changed so much. Then Nate said that it was Olivia. Both of them were happy when they saw Olivia. The lights shone on Olivia's face. At that moment, she was no longer the background character in someone else's story, but the main character in her own life. Isabel sat in the audience, and tears welled up in her eyes. Isabel remembered Olivia's birthday when she was little. Her wish to have a little brother had come true. Olivia's performance was a great success. She received a standing ovation from everyone. Miranda was also happy for Olivia from the bottom of her heart. The two finally made up. That night, Olivia's house was filled with laughter again. Miranda also returned to her second home. On the day of the science fair, Augie and Jack's work won first prize. They used their creativity and effort to gain recognition from everyone. Julian's work became a laughing stock. Julian looked at Augie laughing with hatred and resentment. In class, Julian passed Augie a piece of paper. On it was a drawing of a monster and the name of a horror character from the movie Nightmare on the Street. It implied that Augie had a face like that. In the hallway, everyone gathered around Augie's locker, but when they saw Augie coming, they all dispersed. Julian looked at Augie provocatively. Augie saw a class photo with his face cut out and stuck on the locker. It was written that monsters were not allowed in. Mr. Tushman passed by and saw the photo. Mr. Tushman wanted to help Augie, but Augie refused. Mr. Tushman saw a student peeking on the side and asked the student if he knew anything. And just like that, Julian's bullying case was exposed. The school invited Julian's parents. However, his mother did not think he had done anything wrong. The principal showed the photo. On the back of the photo was written the words, "You should not exist in this world." Then the principal showed each piece of paper that Julian had bullied Augie. There were ugly pictures and papers with cruel words. All of them were placed on Augie's desk by Julian. Bullying was a very serious act in this school, so Julian was suspended for 2 days. Julian's parents tried to justify that he had to go to a psychologist because he was scared of Augie's ugly face. The principal did not budge and canceled Julian's field trip. When Julian's parents saw this, they started to threaten him. They sponsored the school and new people on the board of directors. The principal just smiled and said he had many friends. Julian's mother asked what he wanted them to do. They had to care about everyone's feelings. No one should hurt anyone's feelings like that. It's not good for the kids. The principal explained that Augie couldn't change his face, but they could change the way they looked. Julian ended up getting suspended for 2 days. Julian's parents were furious and decided to transfer Julian to another school, regardless of whether he liked it or not. Julian bowed and walked out of the office. Before Julian left, he whispered an apology to the principal. It was a sincere apology. Although it was a little late, it was still a start. The long-awaited field trip finally arrived. The students boarded the bus and left. Augie didn't even turn around to look at his parents. They played tug of war, rode boats, and watched movies together. Then Augie and Jack snuck out and ran into the woods to play. Just as Augie was going to the bathroom, he accidentally bumped into a group of older students. Those people mocked Augie's face as a monster. Augie and Jack were about to leave, but they continued to mock and call Augie. They mocked Augie that he used that mask to rule the demon world. Jack stood in front of Augie, but he was pushed down and hit his head. Augie also bravely stood in front of Jack, even though he was pushed down. At this moment, a few male classmates ran over. They were Julian's juniors and were also the ones who bullied Augie. But this time, they did not hesitate to stand on Augie's side. With the advantage of momentum and numbers, the leader was quickly defeated. Augie and Jack ran away from the scene first, and the others followed. They were very happy with this victory. Jack curiously asked why they came. It turned out that the three of them had seen the group of students following Augie and Jack. They happily shook hands and thanked each other for saving each other. The fat boy complimented Augie on how cool he was at that time. Augie was so happy and finally had people he could trust. There were friendships that could be rebuilt. At that moment, Augie felt that this field trip was worth it. A few days later, Augie's helmet was found. It turned out that his father had hidden it on the bookshelf. Nate explained and hoped that Augie wouldn't be mad at him because he just wanted to see Augie's face. Nate knew that Augie wouldn't like that, but Augie was Nate's son. Nate loved Augie's face. Augie agreed to forgive his father, and he didn't need the helmet to hide his face anymore. This was a turning point in Augie's maturity. The helmet was no longer a cover. He was ready to face the world. Time passed, and it was the end of the school year. This was the moment that all the students were waiting for. At the graduation ceremony, Augie gently pulled his mother's sleeve and whispered thank you for letting him go to school. Sometimes he was angry with his mother, but now he was very happy. She said he was a miracle and a wonderful boy. Next was Mr. Tushman's speech. Mr. Tushman stood on the podium and looked around at all the students. Every year, the school gives an award to honor students who are willing to help others. The principal has a new understanding of kindness. Greatness is not about power, but how you use that power. Therefore, great people, whether men or women, turn their charisma into the power to influence those around them. So the principal gave this award to Augie, and so Augie stepped onto the podium and received applause from everyone. Maybe Augie was not normal, but as he said, if you really want to understand a person, you have to look with your heart. This motto on the teacher's board also became the core of the whole movie. In the last scene of the movie, the kids who bullied Augie stood by the lake with him, watching the sky reflected in the water. There was no hatred and no tears, but only clear laughter. At this moment, the world finally returned to its original beauty. We often say that we have to look inside a person, but in reality, it is very difficult to do because we are so used to judging by appearance. We are easily scared by differences, but Augie did it with his courage. He took off his helmet step by step and walked into the crowd. From a boy who was shunned by everyone, he became a miracle that could inspire others. Today's story ends here. Thank you for watching the movie. Goodbye, and see you again.